Exactly. It's a new battery.
And we have everyone on our end.
Okay, and you're able to hear me?
Yes.
And yep, okay, I see everybody. All right, go ahead and call the meeting to order. Would all who wish join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, we have agenda adjustments. I would motion to add an item 6BI, Soccer Nordic Lights Administrative Regulation, and item 2B, September 24th, 2024 workshop minutes approval. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll go ahead and roll call. Jake?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
No, I'm sorry. I can't say who's next. Is Jake or Noah? Kevin, or who's next to Jake?
Kevin.
Kevin, yeah, okay. Kevin.
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Okay, so agenda is adjusted. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of September 24th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Go ahead and vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye, carries 5-0. I'm not sure I said my vote on the last one. I voted on the agenda adjustments. So that was 5-0. And I would make a motion to approve the minutes for the September 24th workshop. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Go ahead and vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye, carries 5-0. I would make a motion to approve regular warrant 26F and regular warrant 7, payroll warrant 7, and capital improvement warrant 16. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Go ahead and vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye, carries 5-0. The floor is now open for public comment. Not seeing anybody on Zoom, anybody in the room?
No.
Okay, we'll go ahead. We'll start with acknowledgements. Jake,
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Kevin,
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Noah,
Nothing, thanks.
Mark,
Nothing for me, thank you.
Connor or Dursa?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, Meredith?
I know this was mentioned in an earlier report from Susan, but it's beginning to unfold now, and I just want to express gratitude to the Orono Fire Department for rekindling a partnership with us for fire safety education in our schools, and our staff and students are really excited to see this coming back, and I think it'll really be beneficial to not just, you know, our students, but our community at large. So thanks to the Orono Fire Department.
Great, thanks. Go ahead and move on to reports. We'll start with principal reports and Carrie.
Good evening, everyone. It sure has been a busy start to the school year. We've had lots of people visiting the building. We had a fantastic assembly back on September 24th. We had a visiting aquatic ecologist by the name of Solomon R. David, who came and presented on the alligator gar, which is a fish that he has been studying and been interested in from his own childhood. So we also had some samples of what those skulls actually looked like on site. And I've had a lot of positive feedback from families saying that their children were very excited about this assembly. And the students were just spot on with their questions and the time that they spent with them. So a thank you to Noah for bringing that to our attention and helping us get that set up in our school. It was a great time. A few other folks visiting the building, men's basketball players have been coming in to read to different classrooms. This was a partnership they were very excited about last spring. And then as soon as the school year started, they were there asking, when can we get into the building and do some read alouds with your students? And of course, the students are always excited to have new people in the building. And then Mrs. Higgins just mentioned the partnership with the Orono Fire Department. So the Orono Fire Department will have firefighters who are actually not on duty that are scheduled just actually to come to our building and present lessons in each classroom. And they're going to be doing lessons that are geared towards the age and grade that they're teaching at, and also provide them opportunities, of course, the fun stuff like going to see the equipment and seeing the truck, but really talking about the importance of fire safety and the things that we bring to light this time of year. So those are some exciting outside visitors. We also, you heard Noah and Kevin mention the open house that we had back on September 19th. We tried something a little bit new, and we really enjoyed that. We had a time for each grade level family to be able to come in and spend a few minutes with Ms. West and myself while we highlighted a few important policies. We also had all the LAMP team members there, so shout outs to them for being willing to step up and tell everyone a little bit about their area that they teach. And Ms. McLaughlin was there to talk about our Title I program and highlight our MTFS process for how we support students both needing additional support and needing a little additional acceleration as well. So that was something a little bit different. The last thing that I'd just like to take a moment and highlight, Ms. McLaughlin in her new position was launching our progress monitoring meetings just this week. And that's a time where we take the opportunity to meet with a grade level team and we look at data about students who are receiving special services. So our Chapter 104 students, our Title I students, we're looking to make sure that all the students that should be receiving services are. And then we look to see who's meeting their goals and might be in a position to move to a monitor situation or may no longer need services, as well as a time for teachers to bring up any students that haven't been on any radar at all yet. So it's a really great process to be able to ensure everyone's receiving a little bit of what they need. And I will wrap it up there. If you haven't seen my board report, there are pictures of the alligator gar skulls, so feel free to take a peek.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, we'll go on to the middle school. Richard.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here tonight. And like Carrie just noted, we've been very busy here this fall with lots going on. I'll give you a quick summary here. I want to point out one error in my board report. I had a carryover paragraph from a previous report on the collection of beginning of the year paperwork. I'm happy to report we're at 100%, and we were fairly quickly after the start of the year. But that was an error to include. Quarter one progress reports are out last Friday, and we're already at the midpoint of quarter one. Hard to believe, and the quarter ends on November 1. So we like to send progress reports to students with a grade of D or below at this point in the quarter, sort of a pull up your socks reminder, if you will. And but the good news I always say to students is that there's 4 or 5 more weeks left in the quarter, so lots of time to turn things around. So those went out last Friday. And we have in-service preparations coming up for this Friday. And thank you to Susan for her work with us on designing the structure of the day. But we have mini U sessions, school-based meeting time, and strategic plan work to look forward to on this Friday coming right up. This fall, we've had our field trips have really kicked off. We visited the Orono Bog. Rogers Farm, our Riot Buddies group has been out to Conants Apple Orchard. Lots going on in collaboration with resources in our local community. I'm happy to report that NWA testing, we wrapped that up last week, and we kicked it off with a math assessment on Tuesday last week, and Thursday we did the reading assessment. We do have some makeups to complete, and that will be ongoing until October 25th. But the bulk of it was completed last week. Many thanks to our IT department for being around and supporting us. It went off with very few glitches on the technology side. So pleased to report out on that. Safety drills have gone well this fall. We've had a number of fire drills, and we've had a lockdown drill. Staff and students are becoming more comfortable with those procedures. So I just wanted to report out on that. Our athletic season wraps up in the coming weeks. Our end of season soccer tournaments are October 17th to the 22nd in there. And also completed last week was our Say Something training with students. So I'm happy to report, I think we're at 94% students trained on the Say Something anonymous reporting system. And lots to look forward to in October and November. We have student-led conferences. That's a big couple of nights for our families. I think the dates are November 12th and 13th. So we're going to kick those off. Big event in our school gym. NWA reports will be shared out that night. We have our student council is putting on an OMS dance November 1st. So that's one students are beginning to talk about a bit. Our 6th graders are excited about that being the first dance for them. We have mock election this election year, and that's coming up October 29th. And what else? 8th grade to visit UTC, and our outing club trip is coming up to hike down to Acadia Park October 26th. So lots going on at OMS these days.
Great, thank you. Any questions? No, thanks. We'll move up to the high school. Meredith, Sam, I guess Sam usually goes first.
Yeah, yes, I do. Hi, everybody. I just want to say, I know this is odd for me, but I just hope everyone's enjoying the leaves. Like I drove home today and the foliage is unbelievable. So I hope you guys are having time to do that because I enjoyed it on my ride home. So for the high school, just like everyone else said for OMS and ASA, it's busy as well. Just want to give a thank you to Jared Webb, Kristen Espling, and the many parents who helped really start off the senior year with a senior sunrise back on the 21st of September. It was a great event where kids gathered and cooked food and saw the sunrise and played games and just really tried to kick their senior year off in a positive way. Because as we all know, it's a very important year, but also can be a very challenging and like exciting and scary and all the words that seniors can come up with. So thank you for everyone who helped them start the year off with such a great experience with each other. We also on the 20th of September held our very first volleyball match, which I was able to attend, as well was Meredith Diamond, and it was unbelievable. It's just a great sport to watch. It's very community building, very team building. Everybody's positive. Everybody's really supporting each other. So if you haven't had a chance, you really should try to come out and see a volleyball game. But the teams are doing very well. The kids are really coming together. And very big thanks to Coach Hannah for such a great opening of a volleyball program for us at Orono High School. Our boys cross country team, if you don't know, they're amazing. They did very, very well at the Old Town sectionals a few weekends ago. And then this past weekend, earned fifth place, I'm sorry, overall for the Festival of Champions in Belfast, which is a huge accomplishment. So congratulations to all of our cross country team runners and our coaches, and we hope you continue to be as strong this cross country season. Also, a great effort by our golf team. They, on the 2nd of October, were at the PVC qualifier at Jado Highlands Golf Course. And Noah Schaff and Jason Curley both shot 87 with an ability to advance to the state championships, which is really exciting. And so that will be happening on October 2nd at Natanas. And so good luck to both of them. And this week, if you didn't know, just by walking through our halls and seeing the amazing things that students are wearing and staff, I am not as amazing, so I'm not as colorful as many, but really getting into the homecoming season. This week is homecoming. It kicked off last Friday with our pep rally. Every day this week, we have dress up themes. We also have donuts that were provided yesterday, a bonfire, and a Dunkin' visit tomorrow. Our dance is on Thursday. And of course, there's many, many sporting events in which to go and support our athletes during this exciting time. So thank you very much to Heidi Clark, Student Council, Derek Sinclair, Mike Archer, and the many that are making this week such great experience for our students. We too just had parent-teacher conferences. So they were last Monday and Tuesday night following our progress reports for Q1. We find that's a great opportunity to really connect our teachers and our families and students together to talk about how the year is going thus far, offer some supports, and put in just that connection and that communication between them all. And that went very successful, and really did offer an opportunity for teachers to really get an idea of students and their families. And just as a reminder, Picture Day is Thursday. It does happen to be color day for each class for the homecoming, but you can still look very nice in your class colors for Picture Day. So please remember that. And then my last bit is that we also too, as Richard mentioned, finished our Say Something Anonymous tip system. For us, we hit 90 exactly, which I am proud of. But this is an important thing for our students, and I am proud to say that some of our students have already utilized the tip system, providing us an opportunity to really know that they know we're here and that they can reach out to us at any time for some help. So I'm very proud that we have that in our district, and thank you to everybody who helps make that happen. Meredith?
Thank you, Sam. Just one note to add on to Sam's report about volleyball. Something that Mike Archer shared with us was that of the 13 athletes who are on the 2 volleyball teams or participating in the volleyball program, 10 of those athletes have not played a fall sport previously. So, this is a team that then pulled in, 10 students who otherwise wouldn't have had a sport this fall. And that feels like a validation of, the effort to ensure that we are offering students multiple pathways in a way that is tenable, given the size of our school. And if you are interested in catching a volleyball match, you can do so Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock. They'll be playing Madomic in our high school gym. So in the struggle to find the best way to do things, it feels like sometimes the trap can be that you're always trying a new way because you believe that there's a better way. And so then that creates the sense of there always being a change in the routine. But we have held to our methodology for our fall testing day for the past number of years, thanks in no small part to the precision of Susan Smith's organization. And this fall, it felt a little bit like a payoff in that adhering to the same model, attending to things that could be tweaked, but having ultimately a consistent framework led us to a point this fall of having by far the lowest opt-out rate ever since, we have been, since the pandemic anyway. We had, really quiet, sustained focus for the duration of the testing time. We had, solid participation. We had a student who actually paid for himself to get an Uber to get to school so that he could take the NUIAs, which I feel like is a new trophy that needs to be awarded. Best effort at getting to standardized testing. And, that has let us, as we start to, figure out the nuances and the needs of our ninth grade class, has allowed us as soon as the following day to start pulling that information into discussions. And it's significant when you're, talking about a student, about whom you have serious concerns, and you can see that either, they are performing well above the 50th percentile in reading and math, or they are performing well below the 10th percentile in reading and math, right? Like the implications for both of those conversations are different. And, the fact that we have that information to bear is really exciting. In addition, we, had folks work in advisory for the remainder of the day. And that involved focusing on the SSPs. This year, our SSPs are grade level specific as they were last year, but this year they reflect revisions suggested by the advisors who are administering them to students. This is the kind of the furthest that we have stepped from the parallelism between grade levels. But, in conversations with grade level advisors, it was clear that, different students at different grade levels need to be talking about and thinking about different things. One example of that is that 12th grade advisors said, our reflection on the, where they're at moving toward graduation and what they want to see comes next really should be something that students are talking about in the fall. But when it comes to reflecting on their time at OHS, that should probably be a third or fourth quarter activity. So that SSP was divided in half, and half of it is being saved for the rest of the year. In addition to that, we are looking at ways to build in connection to and engagement with students' desire to learn the elusive real world skills that we heard a lot about in the strategic plan, and have talked about how to where do they fit and when. So we use the Let Grow programs independence inventory for grades 9 to 12, turned it into a Google form, administered a separate version to each grade level, and have pulled from that the kinds of activities that students want to be learning in a way that will allow us to, for some, maybe have, a school-wide chance to, learn how to, one of the ones that has popped up is understanding my healthcare coverage and health insurance. That was something students want to learn more about. But then also have more targeted grade level opportunities for students to learn that. So I look forward to that. And then lastly, I'll close with mentioning that in the data about something that students wish would be true one day at school is that they wish they could have their cell phones back. And that to me is pointing to the fact that we are approaching a realm where students are not using their phones in class. And I would love to applaud all of the, faculty and staff at OHS for making that difficult move in a way that allows us to leverage students' attention in the most impactful way during their time with us. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question on that last point. Because there's been a lot of chatter on the Orno parent listserv about cell phone policy. I'm completely clueless as to where we're at or what the school is doing with cell phones. So what is, what?
At each school, it's slightly different, but I guess what's consistent is they're not allowed out during either all or a portion of the day, depending on what building you're in. So at ASA, they have to stay in their backpacks if they have them. At the middle school, they have to stay in their lockers all day if they have them. At the high school, they're checked in at the beginning of each class into a location in the room. You have to keep it there all period, powered off, and then you can pick it up when you leave that class. So, I think the policy's not new. None of these policies are new this year. I think what's different is maybe a little more fidelity with implementation and oversight to make sure that it's being followed among staff.
And I think what I'm just remembered, there was like a long thread on this listserv back and forth, but there was some question about like confusion about what, so it seems like there is a strong one policy that's just uniform across. Yeah, it seemed like there was expressed confusion that there wasn't a single policy, but I don't know where that would have come from.
Well, it's just that it looks a little different at each school. Maybe that's what people are saying, right? Because it
I think they were saying just at the high school, but yeah. I don't know.
No.
But okay.
Yeah.
Again. All right, that's really helpful. Thanks.
I think in previous years, the enforcement may have been a little different in different classrooms in the high school, but I think there's been more effort to make it more uniform this year.
And parents presumably have been informed about this, I would assume.
They're reading the information we send them.
Right.
So,
I'm just trying to understand where the confusion is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think sometimes, folks don't read what we send.
Yeah.
I would guess maybe that's it, or if you have kids in different schools,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it feels like they're different things they've read, and so it maybe feels harder to keep track of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just trying to imagine maybe where the confusion's coming from.
Well, the confusion could be very well coming from the point that Brian made, is that in previous years, the policy was very differentially enforced depending on where you might have been in both the middle school and the high school. So that's probably what it is, would be my guess.
That too.
I can say also that something that we have done at the high school in conversations about this with faculty and with students is that, because as somebody who's on the listserv, I'm familiar with the train that you're articulating, Noah, and one of the focus points of the conversation on the listserv is about the limitation of cell phones in schools. And for us, that is really not what the conversation has been about. The conversation with faculty and with students has been about the what it is that we are surrendering when we, if you're an average teenager, are on a cell phone for 8 to 9 hours a day. Like, what is it that used to live in that space, and what have we given up in our turn to screen time, and what is it that we need to get back? So we are having increased emphasis on building classroom community and what it means to have, collaborative learning. What does collaborative learning look like? The idea of phubbing and how it feels when you're talking to someone and they take out their phone and start looking at it in a way that, feels dismissive if you're the one, who's engaged with them. What it means to organize your time, what it means to tell yourself the lie that you can multitask when really, that's a well-substantiated myth. So we're coming at this from multiple angles, and I think that is part of why we are seeing the fidelity this year that we have been missing in past years. I think that we reached a tipping point in the building of teachers sort of realizing what has been surrendered and wanting to get that back. And it honestly feels really great. Like Sam was talking about Spirit Week. So some of the engagement with Spirit Week this year is awesome and exciting, and just a really kind of feel good community moment. And I have to believe that part of that is due to our refocusing on one another in lieu of our phones.
And just to clarify, so and the phones are taken, so after class, like in the hallways and stuff, they have their phones back, and that's
At the high school,
free to use, yeah.
at the high school.
And phubbing, that's a word? Wait.
It's,
Never heard of
I can look it up.
Snubbing via phone.
that. With the PA. I get it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead and move on to the superintendent's report.
I have several items to speak with you about tonight, but the first, what's listed is the soccer Nordic field lights regulation. You probably know that the Friends of Orono Schools has been fundraising for to light the soccer Nordic area, and we have had to have a lot of revision and design and working with the town ordinance on the degree to which we can have light spill, and it's actually not spill, it's no, it's the ordinance actually is about can you see the light bulb at the property line 4 feet high? So it's a pretty rigorous standard for where our field lies relative to the neighborhood. And so one of the suggestions from the town was to seek consents for the neighbors for for an exception, for them to agree that we will not meet the standard and there may be light viewable on their property. One of the pieces that we wanted to have clarity around as we were doing this is, you know, exactly what the plans were for using the lights, because I think there's some, we want to differentiate these lights from other lights that maybe people have some consternation around, like the hockey lights that, you know, don't meet the standard either, but they were put in before the ordinance existed. And I think are on maybe later than what people would like in the neighborhood. And so in working with Mike Archer, and in partnership with friends, we came up with these regulations. And when Brian and I talked about where to archive these regulations, or the, you know, procedure, we're trying to figure out what to call it. We came up with a regulation and we would put it on our website, on our policy page, in a new section at the bottom, where we can have things that aren't quite policy, but really need to be archived in a public way so that, you know, we can all find it. And, you know, if I'm not in this chair and you're not in those chairs, people know there's this lights policy that we have, light regulation. So that is what this regulation does. And one of the elements of the agreement that the neighbors requested was that if there's a change in this regulation, that they would have notice, or a change proposed, they would have notice and have the opportunity to come forward to, you know, engage with conversation around that. So that's one of the items you see listed here in the regulation. So we bring this to you tonight as informational. Administrative regulations typically aren't board voted on. They're kind of like administrative procedures, but maybe a step up in terms of formality. So Brian and I talked about bringing them tonight, explaining what they were, how they were developed, and giving you an opportunity to read them and know about them and offer any feedback that you have. The time is probably the most controversial part of it. What time? We landed on that by conversations with Mike, mainly, who originally had an earlier time down for what he felt like was needed. And through further conversation, we just felt like we needed a little more wiggle room in the event, you know, something happens one night and the game gets delayed in the mid-game. That happens. You want to make sure you're giving yourself enough time, and he felt like this did. Brian, am I leaving anything out there?
No, I think you covered it. I mean, just so people are clear, there's 3 properties on Mountain View and 2 on Forest that, you know, are probably going to have light falling on their property. It's a weird ordinance that the town has. So, and it's extremely high standard. So it's been lots of redesigns. It's pretty much impossible to meet. So we're trying to work with those 5 neighbors who are impacted. And, you know, like Meredith said, part of what they want to know is things are not going to be left on until midnight, and they want to have some sort of a guarantee for that. And so this process of an administrative regulation, I don't think the school board needs to get into when, you know, literally lights are turned on and off. That's too much detail, but because it is public facing and also affecting sports, Meredith, I did want the board to at least know that this was happening.
And current design is 3 properties on Forest and 2 on Mountain View. So those are the ones
Okay.
listed. And you said it the opposite, just for clarity.
I got it backwards. Yep.
So any questions, feedback? Okay.
Just a question. So, how are the lights turned on? Like, is there like a key to a box? Like, I guess.
It's gonna
what
be
I'm
like the
getting-
hockey lights.
I don't know how they.
But it's just you know, you can go out, the public can come and turn on the lights and turn them on. So they're going to have some public use ability, but there's going to be signage
Yeah.
about, you know, the time that the lights can be used.
So anyone could just walk up there and put
Yeah.
them on?
Mhm.
Right.
Like for skiing, for example. Yes.
I guess we'll just play it by ear. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems.
I mean, if that becomes problematic, then
Have to do something else.
we have to do something else, but that's the vision, so that, you know, it can be a public asset, community asset to be able to use this area for nighttime Nordic skiing in the winter. So, that's the idea. That's how the hockey lights work. I think the hockey lights, time is 10 o'clock when they have to be turned off, I think. So that's the vision.
And are you're not asking for specific feedback on the language or anything in this policy or?
I'm looking for feedback on, you know, in general, if you have things you want to offer.
Well, I guess I just looking at this first sentence, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I would agree, and the last part of that first sentence would seem
After
to
you.
mean that they always have to be turned off.
Like, that sounds good. to
Yeah.
me.
So
Yeah.
I would add that
Yeah.
they will be turned off when the person leaves.
After use, yeah.
Because otherwise it makes it
Yeah.
sound like they're always gonna.
Yeah, that doesn't make, I see what you're saying.
And so the someone really could be just anyone,
Yeah,
like, yeah. So not, I see. Yeah, I guess like, so like, I guess the anticipated use is really anticipated from our official, like, these like teams,
right.
and we're not anticipating that anybody outside of these teams are gonna use them.
Well, you know, that's a good point that maybe we should put in there that, you know, community use.
Yeah, and I guess that's where
Yeah.
it like opens up to me, like. How, what are we,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's helpful feedback.
But the hockey lights are set up that way where anybody in principle could turn them on.
Mhm.
And have you experienced any issues with that?
Those aren't our lights.
The hockey lights are town. The
Oh,
They
okay.
don't belong to us.
but where is
Yeah.
that?
Right beside the soccer field.
Yeah,
Like the pendant,
yeah, that's the hockey one.
and really, like,
Yeah,
and then, yeah, okay.
The one substantive suggestion I would have would be when it says select practices if needed with the latest time of 7:15 PM. I could anticipate, like, if you're either soccer team is playing gonna be playing a playoff game somewhere under the lights, right? Which has happened, and they have practice under the lights, that I'd want to go a little bit later. 'Cause you're not gonna get
Yeah.
full darkness at 7:15.
yeah,
Not long enough to have a long enough practice, so I would keep that at the same time, so.
yeah. Yeah,
Anything else?
Are you gonna recommend or dictate which 2 nights youth and community skiing is? That's unclear under that bullet. It's just 2 nights or up to 2 evenings per week.
well, that's coordinated with our athletic and facilities department when, you know, there's like a planned event there.
Okay,
So that's coordinated.
so we have to,
Yeah,
somebody just can't go up there, well, I mean, I guess they could.
yeah, but for an individual, but for, you know, a public event like
It
that,
would be
yeah, it's coordinated.
Okay.
Mhm.
I wonder too, I mean, if we have months with no anticipated use, like summer, spring. Is it possible we could just not have them be available to use too?
Well,
I don't know.
I mean,
I guess I'm just thinking
Yeah.
from the ecological end, if things during movement season of stuff that is,
well, there won't be a lot of nighttime during
Yeah.
summer
so,
before 9 PM.
right, well,
So
yeah.
yeah, I don't think we would. I don't think we would lock them at any point from use.
Well, I guess, yeah. Okay. But these are all things we can revisit and see how it goes.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think based on the fact that you know, it's a weird little piece of town property that sticks in there, but there have not been the hockey lights, they don't like them on until 10, and they were an earlier version, so they're not as strongly pointed down as these lights. And they bother the neighbors a bit more, but the fact that people can turn them on or off themselves is not proven to be a problem. So I think we're just assuming they're not going to be a problem until there's a problem.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. I will definitely incorporate that into what we end up moving forward with. I want to remind you that I sent out the MSMA conference information. I'd like to hear by tomorrow if individuals would like to go down for the conference, either for one or both days. And we will get you registered if you'd like to go. Lisa, Sear and I are going, and we'll be happy to take anyone along that wants to go. Tomorrow is our regularly scheduled early release for the month. It's actually the comp time day that we have for required trainings that we have staff do asynchronously on their own time around some of the required trainings that have to be done annually. So that's, if you drive by the school for the early release tomorrow and the parking lot looks empty, that's why, because folks have done their trainings and have comp time for the most part. A few people choose to stay and just do them that afternoon, which is also fine. The other thing, Friday, as you probably know, we have a teacher workshop day followed by Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day. We have a great day of learning together planned for Friday. Susan's done a nice job putting that together. It includes some time working on strategic plan goals and developing some starting points for work on that in our schools. We have a variety of breakout sessions that we're offering during 2 different choice times during the day that I think, I don't know, 7 or 8 choices each time. And then at the end of the day, it's school-based time where schools are using the afternoon to accomplish goals or needs they have for work time. So it'll be a really productive day. And the last thing is Brian and I just want to plant a seed that we're considering whether or not we need to have the October 22nd board meeting. So it's listed on the agenda, but we'll make the call probably next week when we see at time to put out the agenda, whether or not there's any pressing business that we need to have a meeting to discuss. That's often something we do this time of year. And take advantage of it while we can, right? Because the spring, there's no chance for that. So we'll let you know of that once we have a little more information next week. And that's all from my report.
Any questions?
You're going down to MSMA the whole time, or?
Just going down, coming back, day trip. So we'll be driving each day, leaving here probably, I don't know, each day starts a little different time, so we'll probably leave an hour and a half before start time.
I will say, if you want to drive yourself, I've done this many times, you can drive down like 11 or 12, get there just as lunch is ending, and catch, I think it's 3 sessions in the afternoon on Thursday. Friday ends earlier. I think it ends at 3 or something. So it's harder to drive down midday, but Thursday it's very possible to drive down midday if that fits people's schedules better.
And you can see on the agenda what sessions are going to be offered and what time slots to kind of decide if there's value for part of it or.
Seeing less eye-catching title this year than last year, but.
Yeah, every year is a little different. They're spending more time the first day with the keynote speaker than they usually do. Usually the keynote speaker is just the first half of the first day. And this year it's the whole half of the first day. Wait, did I say that? So usually it's just a quarter of the day, like just until 10 o'clock or so. And this year it's all the way to lunch. Okay, Brian?
All right, go ahead and move on. Yep, so the next topic, closely related to this, used to be Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Right, so MSMA is Maine School Management Association, which has MSBA, Maine School Board Association, and MSSA, Maine School Superintendents Association. Right, they're kind of cooperative organizations, but MESBA school board is kind of standing. It's really, they don't call it this, but a lobbying document. They call it the resolutions, but it's the list of positions of the school board, Maine School Board Association, that their government relations person uses when working with the legislature. And that's the main function of the MESBA delegates. Every school board can send a delegate who is then empowered to vote on these resolutions and to change. It's basically helping to set direction or policy direction for the MESBA. I believe the Superintendent's Association does something similar in parallel, but because this is the school board, you guys elected me as a representative, I think last time or 2 times ago, so I will be attending remotely. It's been on, used to be at 3 o'clock on Fridays in person, and it's been on Zoom on a Saturday since COVID. So it's a little bit decoupled from the conference, but so I put it in late. I apologize for that, but I've got the resolutions in the folder. There's somebody who's pretty active who's going through and kind of like we did a revolving rotation through the entire document and updating the document. So there's lots of little changes, 3 changes. And so what we're doing here is I'm asking for your feedback to vote, not asking for a binding vote, because oftentimes you end up down there and people can amend these resolutions and they get amended. So they totally change the purpose. And you see a lot of delegates are like, oh, my school board told me to vote on it this way, but you guys all changed the whole meaning of the resolution. I don't know how to vote. So, I mean, you're sending me to, use my judgment, but I do want to hear people's input on the resolutions as they stand. Most of them are just kind of ticky-tack updates. There's 3 that I'm happy to discuss, any that anybody wants to discuss, but the 3 that I would call your attention to are actually the last 3. So the first one I'm going to look at is 3.8.1, Essential Programs and Services. This is a pretty substantial rewrite. There's a strong movement in some towns to change the whole funding base of the EPS. In particular, a lot of coastal towns, especially poorer coastal towns like down east towns, the property tax base can be quite high because of $1 million vacation homes, even though the actual incomes of the people who live in that town are, not necessarily very large incomes. And so you can kind of get this generational wealth where you inherit a home to become $1 million home, but you're making $50,000 a year. Anyway, so there's been a big push by these districts to get the EPS to recognize these income versus property differences. Non-receiving towns, places with very high property valuations like Camden, also are pushing to get some more money. They get nothing out of the EPS formula. So anyway, there's lots of pushes to redivide the pie around EPS. And I think that it's fair to say that this rewording is trying to kind of capture some of that intention. There's also, as I think you heard, Meredith mentioned last time, there's a state legislature has instructed the the Educational Policy Institute to do some listening tours and research around the EPS formula. So there's clearly motion around this. I don't personally have a super strong opinion on this effort. I think Orono is kind of middle of the pack on income and property values, and I don't think there's a deeply disequitable feature to the basic revenue structure. So I'm probably at the present planning to vote yes for this change to the EPS language, but if somebody has a comment, I'm more than happy to hear that.
This doesn't seem to be proposing a specific new formulation, it's just saying make it better somehow.
Yeah, make
Right.
it better, take these factors into consideration. There's not a formula, correct? I mean, these changes always create winners and losers, right? If Stonington's paying less, somebody somewhere is going to be paying more. And if, if I'm picking on Stonington because they've been quite active, but there's a number of districts pushing this. If it becomes more income based and less property value based, there are places, I mean, realistically, Orono with the university and the doctors and the hospital people living there, it could affect us some. A little hard for me to, parse this through, and I have to imagine places like Portland will probably get affected more. But there's always winners and losers when you change the formula, but there's no, like you say, there's no specific formula. So it's very hard to project how this would impact Orono. I'm not hearing any other questions or comments on EPS. So I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead to the new resolutions. There's two. One is on artificial intelligence. This to me is pretty common sense, pretty basic language. AI, and it's pretty much in line with our generative AI guideline that we adopted. It says it should be serving education, rather than taking over education. It should be used appropriately. It needs to conform with existing policies. Just putting this in as a position of MESBA. Any questions or concerns about that one? Okay, and the last one
guess
you've seen
I
before,
guess-
you all voted for it. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it doesn't necessarily speak to the concerns about, I think, AI, like the privacy concerns of, right, of student work. But, we had a long conversation.
That's true. That's true, but we have a 5-page policy and this is
Yeah.
5 sentences. So I think that's probably, it's more nuanced than I would try and push into this. Okay, go ahead and move on to the next one. This is, something, an agenda I've been trying to push, that funding 55% of EPS is not really fully funding the schools if EPS is dropping behind inflation each year. And I've done a lot of analysis showing how it's dropped behind inflation. And in fact, they've basically cut school funding 5 to 10% in real dollars over the last 4 years since 2021, when they finally hit the 55%. So I think I just want to see that start to be part of the conversation. So, like I said, you guys all voted 5-0 to pass this. So I assume your position on that hasn't changed. Okay, so if you do read anything else and have a question or concern, let me know. But I'm planning to vote for all of those small changes, and basically I'm planning to vote for the 3 we talked about as it stands. So we'll go ahead and move on to nominations. We don't have any higher nominations. We do have co-curricular nominations. I would make a motion to approve the slate as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
And it's fairly short. We have Melanie Diaz as the OHS GSA club. So this is a 2nd year of trial. That would become a permanent position next year. And we have Emily Hildebrand for middle school girls soccer B half position. Any discussion or questions?
What's GSA?
We can go ahead.
Gender
Gay
Sexuality Alliance.
Student Alliance, Gay Straight Alliance.
Which one is it?
Which one is it, Sam? I think it's gender,
It's Gay Straight Alliance. I thought.
I think more recently they changed to the Gender and Sexuality Alliance because
yeah.
Okay, so the last time the high school had it was Gay Straight Alliance. So yes, then maybe that's what it is now. So I apologize.
and actually our group voted to call themselves Prism, the Prism, that's.
Okay, so then maybe that's gonna be another change.
I can tell you in a moment. I just have to look
I
up
mean,
on
for
the
the moment,
stipend.
Not gonna change anything.
Okay,
I had no idea what we were talking about.
Gender Sexuality Alliance. It's what's on the stipend proposal form.
My apologies.
any other questions? Okay, we can go ahead and vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye, carries 5-0. We're on to policies. First policy is BDE-R. You have a copy in the folder. So this relates to board standing committees. Primarily think the policy subcommittee and the curriculum subcommittee. The changes are down in G. Yeah, I guess they're all F and G. So doing three things. One is it's recognizing that the board can always take up a matter. It's not possible for two people or one person in a subcommittee to bottle something up and prevent the board from taking it on. That is an issue that happened in the distant past, 8-10 years ago. So especially with another change, we're going to make that's important that, the board can take up topics it wants to take up and use the committees if it wants to. In G, it makes it clear, I think it was always clear, but it makes it explicitly clear that the voting members are the board members. These committees are workshops where we have many different stakeholders present, but if it actual vote, it's the board members. And then the last piece is addressing quorum. It's quite common that only one or sometimes none of the board members attend, and it's recognizing that these can still go ahead for the purpose of getting stakeholder input at regularly scheduled times, even in the absence of a board member or two. So those are the changes. I would make a motion to recognize the revisions to policy BDE-R. There's no changes to BDE. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Advisory advice, and no, that. Change the wording there, but that's fine.
Where's that?
It's just to pass on advisory advice.
Under G.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess it's fine, but advisory input,
It's awkward, but
Advice.
not incorrect. So I think
not incorrect, sure.
we can leave it be for now, but hopefully yes, catch that next time. Anything else? All right, we can go ahead and vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Carries 5-0. Next, we'll go to ACAA-R2. AA and AB are our sexual discrimination harassments. And you may remember we passed the core policy, ACAA, and regulation 1 previously. Regulation 2, we had some questions we wanted to consult with the lawyers. This all drives back to the US government and the Biden administration rewriting Title IX regulations and us trying to come in conformance with that. Sam's done a nice job of updating these policies to come into conformance. And the bottom line is that the policy -R 2 is, the policy committee now feels like we're comfortable that this is in compliance with what our lawyers are recommending. And in particular, we're kind of taking some options that the lawyer felt was less preferred, but recognized are pretty realistic for smaller school districts. So I guess I will make a motion to adopt. No, it's a revision, recognizes a revision policy ACAA-R2 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? We can go ahead and vote.
So I got a question. So wait, what were you saying was a non-preferred approach?
In the lawyers would like us to stretch out the chain of command. The superintendent has to be not part of the investigation so that she can be part of an appeal process. And the lawyer would like to have the investigator and the decider separated, but that's really not feasible in our existing district structure.
To the bottom of page
And
12.
the lawyer said, yes, bottom of page 12. The lawyer said, yes, we recognize that that's a common approach in a smaller school district, and that's an acceptable approach. So that's how we've done things in the past, and we're gonna, and for those of you who don't know, Sam is our Title IX coordinator. So she is both, has been and would continue to be the investigator and the decider with Meredith in reserve for appeal. The other thing we consulted around is what needs to be communicated, and this is on page 14. What needs to be communicated to the complainant and the person being investigated, or the complainee, I guess, if that's the word, in terms of evidence. And lawyer was pretty clear that we can steer towards looking at a description of the evidence rather than the actual evidence, and but they do have a right to look at the actual evidence if they want to. Everybody had steered towards the description because that makes it provide some anonymity, remove some of the barriers to making complaints. But also we can redact what's being presented, so we can remove the names of not of the complainant, but of some of, witnesses, for example. So that is the other thing that we consulted with the lawyer on. And Mark, we didn't get to discuss it. I know you had a different opinion, but everybody at the policy committee preferred this version.
No, that's fine.
Primarily because we didn't want to discourage people we wanted to minimize barriers to complaint, but there is still a right to.
I oppose it, as I generally don't like putting in stuff that is going to end up being relatively useless anyway, because if you just provide them the description and they know they can request the evidence, they're going to request the evidence, but whatever.
Well, one of the things that we learned is that they have to actually come in and view it. Like, we're not allowed to send it. And they can't take a picture. I mean, there's a lot of rules that we learned in some recent training Sam attended.
Yeah, and it also has to be relevant evidence, Mark, which I think is also, really kind of, provides, I guess, structure and like expectation about what that evidence can and can't be, into what can be shared even within the description, or if they were to ask to see all the evidence, like it's just what's relevant to the case that's being investigated. So I did learn a lot more from the last training I attended, I think like two weeks ago, from what I had learned back in July, and it really did help, to be fair, me even feel more confident and more sure on the decisions that we were making. And there was support from the Drummond and Woodson folks to use the description of the evidence and try to present that and then go forward if need be.
Any other questions?
I guess, yeah, and there, in terms of the previous question about like separating investigator versus decision maker and leaving the superintendent out for appeals, like is everybody pretty much in agreement that that's just not possible within our district, given the size? That's just.
Well, there's a lot of training that we want our individuals who are leading these investigations and making decisions in them to have, because it's a very cumbersome process.
Yeah.
And it's a very important process.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we've always done is to have it centralized with one individual who, we felt like could have that consistency across our district with how it was being implemented. And our worry is really twofold with dividing it up, in that it would perhaps not feel as cohesive as I feel like it's being implemented now. And just capacity wise in a small district, I think it's hard to have, multiple people with that level of training. We might end up getting there, because one of the things we've implemented with this new policy, since my role has to be firmly in the appeal section, previously I worked with Sam at the point of decision with, reviewing things with her and going over it, asking questions, making sure we've done, a lot of, or just being a second set of eyes on things. And now that's going to be with other administrators. And so we're doing training with almost all the other administrative team, actually, to potentially be in that consultative role before decision is made. And so I think we're trying to build more capacity across the district to be able to be in that consultative role with our affirmative action or Title IX officer. And it may be that someone emerges that, gains a lot of expertise and is really has a knack for the work, that we may end up having actually other people have to do investigations. Because, for example, if Sam had a conflict of interest with something that came up, someone else is going to have to do that investigation. So we're starting to, try to deepen the bench a little in this round.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just in principle, I like kind of the idea of having multiple layers of appeals and review, and in the case that 10 years down the road, there's someone not as good at one level, having that built in.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that's different about this is the fact that we're adding in a new person other than Sam and myself.
Yeah.
Even without separating the roles.
I can also say, no, we've had one person doing those two roles for at least 20 years in this district, and it's never been a problem. I mean, the investigation and decision-making roles, I don't know. I can see arguments for separating them as a protection, but I could also see arguments for having them be one person as a protection, right? To me, it's a little odd to separate out the decision maker from the investigator, because who knows more about who's actually talked to all of the witnesses and everything else. It's the investigator. So
Brian, we
Any other
lost that
discussion?
last. Yeah, okay, I guess you were done. You kind of got garbled that last word or two.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just I think the investigator is best positioned to make the decision. And I don't think there's any protection from separating those two roles for for either of the two parties involved. All right, ready to go ahead? We'll vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye, carries 5-0. Next up is literally exactly parallel policy. I would make a motion to recognize, to adopt the revision to policy ACAB-R2. Is there a second?
Second.
So this one deals with employees instead of students, but the issues were identical, and the language and changes that were made were identical. So really, there's not a separate discussion unless somebody wants to raise something differently. We'll go ahead and vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye, carries 5-0. Sam, thank you for all of your work in the position in general, but also for these policies. Go ahead and go up to subcommittee reports. Policy subcommittee, you saw our output from October. We are going to have two board members absent or possibly absent. If football team does like we hope, so we've canceled the November policy subcommittee meeting. And yeah, we'll meet again in December. There's not a whole lot left on the agenda. Curriculum committee. Trying to think is, I think we had an update the last one. So the curriculum committee meeting's this Thursday. Oh, sorry, I skipped UTC. Anything there, Kevin?
Just a little bit. So there is a public hearing at UTC next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So the public can engage with UTC about the warrant. I did find out it is the majority of the votes, not of towns. So obviously the larger towns will have a greater bearing on the passing of this warrant. But everything's in place, apparently.
Are they expecting people to show up and talk about it?
Like people like me or?
No, no.
Anticipating like.
Any public
yeah.
input, yeah.
Yeah, so they're uncertain. I mean, it can sound like a big scary thing, like there's millions of dollars being borrowed. But it's already been, allocated, and so it's not gonna raise taxes or anything. So I think they're ready in case the public has concerns. And I think they're hoping people would show up just so that they're informed when they go to the ballot. Because even though there's a sentence on the ballot that indicates that the state of Maine will be paying for these, it still sounds a lot like the kinds of things that raise our taxes. I think they have hopes. They have their large auditorium reserved for this.
I mean, one of the challenges is there's not an Orno observer going out before the election for me to put something out to the broader community about it. I plan on putting something out to our school community through those means, but yeah, I think there might be misunderstanding at the polls about this.
Yeah.
We could do some informal, if there's
Yeah.
something like, put it on the parent list server.
Yeah, well, I'll get some content from Amanda and put it out and then ask others to share.
We have some concern about ballot fatigue too, given that this is a busy election
Yeah.
and you're getting all the way to the end, there's some weirdly worded question about some warrant for something and whatever. So we hope people read it. It's like the last thing you're gonna vote on, potentially. On that,
Anything else for them?
in November?
A little.
All right. Anything from Wellness Committee?
Well, our next meeting scheduled October 24th. I see that's when MSMA is, so I guess we have to see.
Okay. Strategic plan did meet. We had our first kind of opportunity to break up into the subgroups and start discussing strategy, really just getting launched. I think all the subgroups have set times to meet further. What else would you add, Meredith?
Just that we've set up for us to work with staff on Friday, as you know, from the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, to really get staff going on, you know, the things that interest them around the goals. So hoping that each school will have individuals interested enough to join a group working on that for their school. So Friday will tell us where that interest lies and what ideas folks have they want to pursue.
And do you end up with a representative from each group for each school? I know ours was, or somewhere short.
We do.
Okay.
I mean, I'm filling in for one, Susan's filling in for one, for some people that needed some backfilling.
Okay, is there any other business? Any requests for future agenda items?
We do actually, sorry.
Yes.
So as student board representatives, we've received a lot of student feedback regarding the pickleball lines and the tennis courts. And we would like to propose an adjustment for next meeting's agenda to just give like a short 5-minute presentation separate from our board report, just like giving you guys some of the information that we've collected over the past couple weeks. We just think that it would be more beneficial to be presented separately from the board report.
Okay.
Yep.
And we can talk, I mean, we're aware and are looking at remedies, so.
Yeah, we just gotten some like really specific feedback from students and we would like to present that.
Maybe you might want to send that to me though, prior, because if we don't have the next meeting, so we don't miss something that is important as we're working on remedies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, maybe if you can forward that to Meredith, and we can also add it to the agenda, assuming we have a meeting next time.
Got a remedy I could propose.
Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, our next board meeting, again, pending material needing to be covered, October 22nd, Tuesday, at 6 o'clock in the library and on Zoom. Any requests for information and follow-up? Seeing none, I would motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
And we'll go ahead and vote. Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Carries 5-0. We're adjourned, everybody. Thank you.
Is that 7?